Ankara cotton fabric. So yeah, crepe is an amebo. Whatever you give it is what you get. And who wasn't once a beginner? I'm guessing nobody. And as a beginner, you're prone to making mistakes, like mistakes that you could have avoided if you had somebody right there with you holding your hands and telling you what to do and what not to do. And that's the purpose of today's vlog episode, guys. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys a list of fabrics you should stay far away from as a beginner. Like if you are fabric shopping and your hands mistakenly touch those fabrics, you need to run and stay clear and look for plenty soap and water to wash your hands. Like really, it's that bad, guys. So guys, please hit the subscribe button and let's head right in. Now, before we talk about the bad guys, that is the fabrics you shouldn't touch as a beginner, let's first talk about the good guys. That is the good fabrics, the ones that you can work on as a beginner, the ones that won't make your sewing life a living hell, the ones that won't frustrate you while sewing. Trust me, I learned the hard way, and I can tell you for free that if I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have made some silly mistakes that cost me precious time and money. Now let's get into the good list. And number one on the beginner fabric list is our darling Ankara cotton fabric. I'm saying Ankara cotton fabric because there are different types of Ankara prints. There are Ankara silk now. You can find Ankara silk now in the market, but the ones I'm talking about specifically that is on my beginner fabric list is Ankara cotton fabric. Ankara cotton should be your best friend as a beginner because it will help you glide smoothly through your beginning sewing journey, because it is very easy to handle and it can withstand so many things. It can withstand many of the things the beginner will throw at it. Like if you are making something, you're making a project or a sewing project right now, and then you find out that you've made some mistakes in the project or in the dress or blouse or whatever you're making, and you decide to take out the seams, like you decide to loosen the seams, you won't be scared that, oh, is this fabric going to tear, or am I going to ruin it, or am I going to do that, am I going to do this? Especially if you get the good quality ones and you want to make something that you'll be able to wear out, I would suggest that as a beginner you get Ankara cotton. And the fact that you can make any style in this world with Ankara is a plus, because as a beginner there are some styles you would want to try, and then you might be looking at, okay, should I use this type of fabric they used in this project? I'm advising you, please don't use it if you are still a beginner in sewing. So you can always use Ankara for anything in this world. You can use it for shirts, you can use it for shorts, you can use it for pants or trousers, you can use it for jackets, you can use it for anything really, because Ankara is colorful, it's beautiful, the prints are nice, and whatever project you are trying to do, you can trust in Ankara to make your final result look beautiful and stunning. Now, the best way to care for your Ankara is to never wash it with detergents. That is the number one golden rule. If you want it to stand the test of time, you want it to stand you want it to serve you well, and you want to keep using it for a very long time, never wash it with detergent. If you are washing with a washing machine, there are some specialized washing powders you can get in the supermarket that were made specifically for Ankara. So you can get one of those. But if you can't be bothered with all that hassle as a beginner and you want to maybe wash by hand, or you want to wash by hand really, you can use like a mild bar soap, yes, to wash your Ankara. And that's the best way to care for your Ankara, to make sure it stands the test of time. That's what I use, and it works great for me. Now, if you're looking for a way to get some top quality Ankara fabrics, that is Ankara fabrics that will serve you well and stand the test of time, you can check out the MO store, and the link is right in the description box and also pinned right in the comment section. Now, the best part of getting fabrics from there is that it's sold on a yardage. So whatever you want to buy, if it's 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, you can always get it from there. So you won't be bothered with having to buy 6 yards of fabric that you will not even be able to finish, because I get that like that sometimes. I'll buy Ankara and then it's 6 yards and I'll be wondering, oh, I can, most times I don't use more than 3 yards for whatever it is I want to sew. It's only when I want to make like really big type of styles that I tend to use like maybe 5 yards or up to 4 yards. So if you are making something simple, like really and you want to get the exact amount of fabric you need for that project, you can always get your Ankara fabric from there. So click that link to check out how to buy this beautiful array of Ankara fabrics. Number 2 on my list is printed cotton, and this is what I mean by printed cotton. Look at this. It is not 100% cotton like Ankara cotton because it has like a bit of stretch on one side. Look at this. I hope you can see what I'm talking about. Look at this. This is not stretchy, but if you go, this is one side, this is not stretchy, but if you go through this side, look at this, it's giving me that stretch that I want. So if you want to make like a figure hugging dress, for example, all you need to do is to cut your dress on the stretchy side of the fabric, and voila, you're going to have that figure hugging dress that didn't stress you while sewing, unlike if you use a fabric that that would have frustrated you. So yeah, printed cotton is on our beginner fabric list. Number 3 on the list is Scuba Fabric, and this is what I mean by Scuba Fabric. So it has like a foamy texture and is strong enough, and it's strong enough and sturdy enough to use as a beginner. So yeah, it has a stretch. Some of them have a stretch on one side and some of them have a stretch on both sides. So it's really easy to use as a beginner, as far as you don't get the overtly thick ones, because it comes in various thickness. So if you get the overtly thick ones, the very thick ones, it's going to make your whatever it is you are making, dress or blouse, it's going to make it look bulky and unappealing. So if you get the ones that are not too thick and not too light, you'll be just fine. So sometimes you don't even, when you are sewing, you don't even need to finish the edges of your Scuba Fabric while sewing, because it doesn't fray. That is, when you cut it, the dress, the threads of the fabric doesn't get loose, it doesn't loosen out. So sometimes, and then you sometimes want to give it like a decorative finish and you don't want to also finish the edge, you can always use a zigzag scissors like this and then you cut it. So you're going to have like a neat decorative finish, and this is what I mean. So yeah, Scuba Fabric is also number 3 on our beginner fabric list because it's very easy to handle for a beginner. Now number 4 on the list is Crepe Fabric. This one is a little bit dicey and I almost didn't want to include it in this beginner fabric list because it can be tough to work with, but because crepe is versatile, you can use it to sew so many things like bridesmaid dresses, whatever it is you really want to sew. It works for a lot of dresses. I just included it because it can be tough to work with if you don't know what you are doing as a beginner. So I would advise that you first work more with Ankara, you work more with printed cotton, and then you work more with Scuba. So when you feel like you're confident enough, like you are good enough working on those other 3 fabrics that I mentioned, then you can move to working with crepe, because crepe is not a secret hider. Whatever you do to it is going to bring it out exactly the way you sew it on. So let's say for example you're a beginner and then your seams, when you're sewing a straight seam, you're not yet like good, you're not yet able to sew your seams straight and all of that. Crepe will never hide that for you. The only fabric that I know that will hide something like that for you is Ankara cotton fabric. So yeah, crepe is an amiable. Whatever you give it is what you get. And also, you know that while sewing anything in this world, you always have to iron, and I've talked about something like this in one of my previous videos, that if you want to achieve a professional finish when you are done sewing, you need to always iron your fabric well. So you can also check out the video right on top of your screen to find out other things that I mentioned that will make your dresses or whatever sewing projects you are making look professional at the end. So yeah, if you are a beginner, and because I know some beginners are still lazy, when you tell them okay, iron this, iron that while sewing, they don't want to. So if you are working with crepe fabric and you don't iron it, it's going to show the world exactly what you did in secret. So if your hands are still shaky and maybe you're not yet as good as you think you are, crepe would expose you. I call it a full-blown aproko. Now we've come to the end of our list of beginner sewing fabrics. Now let's head right on to the list of fabrics that you should run far away from as a beginner. And number one on that list is silk fabric. Silk is beautiful, silk is luxurious, it is pretty to look at, it is beautiful, it has a very nice drape, that is, it falls easily and it's really nice. But as a beginner, if you try silk, hot tears everywhere, because number one, as pretty as it is, it's slippery. So while you are even trying to cut it or sew it, it's already slipping out from wherever it is you put it. And also you need to change your needles when working with silk. You can't just use any type of pin to like pin it down. You use like a pin that is not that is blunt, that is not sharp enough, you're going to ruin the fabric. And an important factor again is that you can't be loosening your seams up and down when you're working with silk. So you can't be making mistakes up and down, because once you make mistakes and you're trying to loosen the seams, it's either the fabric tears. If it doesn't tear, once you are done taking out the seams, you're going to have like holes in the left on the fabric once you take out the seams. And if that one doesn't happen, well, one thread will just pull out from somewhere and then it will just distort the whole fabric and ruin it, which will not give like a professional look or a professional finish. So to work with silk, you need to exactly know what you are doing. That is why it is not a fabric that is beginner friendly, because it's difficult to handle. Now number two on the list of fabric you should stay far away from is chiffon. Chiffon is light, chiffon is airy, chiffon is beautiful, it is soft, but that airiness and that softness is what will frustrate a beginner that is just learning how to sew. So as a beginner, I'll tell you, I will advise you to stay clear away from chiffon. Cutting chiffon alone can make you have nightmares for days. And if you don't even know what you are doing, if your sewing is not yet straight, like I also mentioned with silk, chiffon will also expose you. Number three on my list of fabrics you should stay far away from as a beginner is delicate or beaded lace. You see, there is normal lace and there is beaded or delicate lace, because with beaded and delicate lace, if you don't know what you are doing, it's either the lace tears or it stretches out of proportion. And for some laces, you can't just pick up your scissors and cut it anyhow or cut it anywhere. If you try that, you're going to destroy the fabric, because you just see the beads on the lace falling out really, and you've ruined the fabric really, because if there's no bead, there are no beads again on the lace. If the threads have unraveled, what is now the point of the lace? And then again, lace will never hide your mistakes for you, so you have to be extremely careful when working with lace. So it's not a beginner friendly fabric in my opinion. Number four on the list of fabrics you should stay far away from as a beginner is Lycra. Lycra is one of the most difficult fabrics to work with, even for someone that is not a beginner, because Lycra is light, Lycra is stretchy, Lycra is slippery, and if you don't know what you are doing, you're going to shed hot tears. Because for someone that is not a beginner, even there are techniques, there are things to do when you're sewing with Lycra, like changing your needle, like not pulling it when you're sewing. Like when you're sewing, you let it glide smoothly. As it's sewing, you're not pulling it, because once you pull it, it can stretch out of proportion. Lycra stretches both ways. There's no way, like with printed cotton that I was explaining earlier, one part is sturdy, one part is stretchy. Lycra, it stretches both ways, so it stretches this way, it stretches this way, which can make it very difficult to handle for someone that is a beginner. Now the fifth and final fabric you should avoid as a beginner is velvet fabric. Now for velvet, the sewing is not that hard, but before you sew it, the cutting is where the difficulty lies, because there's a way you cut velvet that may not be obvious for a beginner to know. Because when you're cutting, if you look at velvet has like a hairy feel, like a rug-like feel. And then when you're sewing with velvet, you can't just place your iron on top of it straight up and iron. If you do that, the hair on the velvet is going to collapse, or I don't know how to explain it. It's going to press somehow. There's something it does. It's going to collapse somehow, and then once you wear it, it's going to be visible to somebody, to a trained eye, that this dress is homemade, and which is what we are trying to avoid really when we are sewing. We don't want our outfits to look homemade. And also when you're cutting velvet, also there's a way to cut it, because if you cut it, like, you have to look at where as how the color of the velvet progresses, like if it's light to dark, so you know the way to lay your pattern on top of the velvet before cutting it. Because if you lay your pattern on the velvet the wrong way, the color of the velvet is not really going to look nice. So yeah, that is it for velvet, and that is why velvet is not on my list of beginner sewing fabric. So aside all of those, sewing it is not that hard, but the problem lies with cutting it and how to iron it. And as a beginner, you definitely get there, but before you get there, I would advise that you use the list of good fabrics, that is the beginner friendly fabrics we mentioned earlier, so that you don't stop before you even start. Because if you are using fabrics that are frustrating you as a beginner when you are still beginning, it's really easy for you to quit and say, oh, I'm not doing this again, because once you are sewing and whatever you are sewing starts frustrating you, I don't know if you understand that type of frustration that will make you want to throw the fabric away, throw the dress away, and forget it for the rest of your life. So to avoid that, please use the fabrics in the beginner lists. Now, to get some top quality Ankara fabrics for your project, please check out the link in the description box and also in the comment section to find out how you can get them. And that's it for today's vlog episode, guys. If you know any other fabrics that you are sure a beginner needs to avoid, please share it in the comment section so we can also learn from you. Don't forget to tap the subscribe button, guys. Tap the like button if you found today's video helpful, and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming tutorials next week. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.